how long do you think that they should fight? Did you see anything tonight that makes you feel like, you know, we need to start changing the game plan or thinking of something different for Caleb Plant based on what you saw? Reflexes, speed, and he's a kind of a reflex-oriented guy.
I didn't see his reflexes and his speed go nowhere. He was still fast and sharp, but the punches was bothering him a little bit. I saw the punches bothering him a little bit. And I seen his face busting up a lot, and he was just showing the wear and tear of the fights. His skin was breaking up kind of bad, you know, and I think that that's one of the things that caused him the victory. In the third or fourth round, he came back and he had a little something on his nose. Right? I'm like, damn, where did that come from? He barely got hit. So
that left hand up against the ropes. Looks like that opened it up.
You probably had a better angle than me. So I don't want to say that just yet, and that's not something that you want to, you know what I mean? You don't want to rush the judgment on one night, but I didn't see anything wrong with his speed or reflexes, but it just seemed like that the punches had a bigger effect on him tonight. I don't know.
A lot of people were saying that in the press were the body punches. You saw just a painted red along the sides of Caleb, and it looked like the body punches.
They was having a big effect on him, man. I don't know, man. They was having a big effect on him. They were. I mean, and I think Resendiz is a decent guy, but I don't look at him to have bricks in his hands. So I don't know. Let me assess that. You don't want to make it this. The one thing about this era that I hate is that these guys fight so seldom that one fight and then you got to think about it for 9 months and then you kind of rush to your decisions on them, so you don't have a big body of work. We're in an era where guys are not even going to have 30 fights in their career. Caleb got this big following. He don't even have 26, 27 fights. You understand what I'm saying? So, and he's been pro over 10 years. So you judge the nights. Sometimes we over-exaggerate them. So I want to see more than that just to say he should be hanging them up. But I will say that the punches had a bigger effect on him than I thought they would have. I seen Resendiz fight plenty of times, and he was I never viewed him as like this huge, vicious puncher. I thought he was just a strong, come forward guy. You know, he obviously got heavy hands. He got, 16 wins, 11 knockouts. But I didn't view him as like this deadly, lights out kind of guy. But the punches did seem to have an effect. The right hand to the flank was a good shot for him. And
that punch in particular seemed to be the bothersome.
Yeah, we had a plan for that. We had a counter for that and everything. It's just sometimes the shit just don't come off in the fight. But we definitely knew he was going to go to the body, and we were sitting and catching and countering, but it just didn't work out that way.
Do you support him walking directly into a Charlo fight? He said, I asked him earlier in the presser, and he said, yeah, I'd be down to go with Charlo right away.
When y'all ask fighters prideful questions like that, if you ask him would he go outside and fight Resendiz again 12 rounds, he gonna say yes. So I'm not saying you asked him anything wrong, but you can't, I don't know.
What's the expectation? Of course he's gonna say.
Yeah, like this is a prideful sport, so you're gonna get a prideful answer. What is he gonna say? You know what I mean? It's not even fair to hold him to that. I don't have anything to do with Caleb's management. That's the honest to God truth. Louis DeCubis, Al Heyman, his wife, they take care of all of that. I don't know who he's fighting or none of that. He tells me who he's fighting, and then we get ready for the fight. So if he want to go to Charlo, he could go to Charlo. If he want to fight the Resendiz rematch, because he does have a rematch clause, he could do that. I don't really know. He just has to regroup, and we gotta figure out some things and move forward. That's it.
Brett, what do you think? I mean, you haven't had any time to watch the tape or really reflect, but what would Caleb have to execute in a rematch, and how confident are you that he could he could reverse the outcome of tonight?
I think that he could. I would like to get carte blanche this next camp and just be able to do everything that I wanted to do, from top to bottom. I started training Caleb in 2022. So he was 30 years old. It was after the Canelo fight. So, I could remember a lot of trainers hating on Freddie Roach, and they would say stuff like, well, he's already getting ready-made guys. He's already getting guys like Pacquiao. Pacquiao's already a phenom, and they would be kind of like hating behind the scenes. He keeps winning Trainer of the Year. And I always used to say, that's the hardest thing in the world to do, is to get a guy that's already been to the top and he's coming off a loss and you got to rebuild him because he's already set in his ways. And then when you're training him, you know, he's going to have his own ideas. He's going to have like, well, coach, we did it this way and we got to this part. And then you rebuilding their confidence because they come into you because they got a loss already. So that's much more difficult. The easiest thing to do is you get a guy that's a ball of clay or a blank canvas with some talent, and there's nobody else, and you could just work with him and you, and y'all could get to grow together. I would rather do that any day of the week. And I love training Caleb. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but what I'm saying is just, it's difficult because he already has certain things down, and you have to conform. You can't talk to a 30-year-old man the way you talk to an 18-year-old kid that comes in the gym. You know, when he might say, all right, you know, I like to spar 100 rounds in camp. I don't want to, you know, and I'm just giving you hypotheticals. I'm not saying these are things that he said, but it's a lot more difficult. When I first started training Caleb, he had just got stopped by Canelo. He was off a whole year, and then he was in the ring with a big puncher, Anthony Durrell. That was not no easy camp. I'll be honest with you, I can say it now. He got, like, the sparring got the better of him for the first 3-4 weeks of that camp. And we just had to sit down and keep talking and keep working things out. And I'm like, it's gonna get better, it's gonna get better. And he went out and had one of the most electrifying performances of his career. But that camp, bro, that camp stressed me out. It's very, very difficult to deal with a fighter that's coming off a loss, that's already had success. Because he's rich, you understand what I'm saying? So you gotta factor in hunger, you know, and I'll give Caleb credit because he trains hard every day and we always have good workouts. But I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what's inside of him, and you're going through a lot with that. I think he could beat Resendiz, but I would want a camp where I just got carte blanche and I could just do everything that I want to do with him in camp, and let's just see how it is, you know?
Talk about
What are those things?
Differently in the next camp if you were to fight Resendiz
Just
again?
maybe the top 3 things that you think you.
I don't want to say it publicly. I gotta respect Caleb. I gotta respect Caleb. I gotta respect everything. I just don't want to say it publicly because if I say it publicly, it could kind of get misconstrued, and they'll say, well, whatever I say, they're gonna say, well, he wasn't doing this, so he wasn't doing that. And it's really not about that. I would just have to have carte blanche because now we're not gonna be fighting Resendiz. We're gonna be fighting Resendiz time 2 because he's gonna be so confident. And the next time he fights Caleb, he's gonna think he can stop Caleb. So it's gonna be a very, very hard fight. And
That's a harder fight, I think.
it's going to be a harder fight. The one thing I will say is I want to bring in the kind of sparring partners that I want to bring in. You know what I'm saying? There's a certain kind of sparring partner for a certain kind of guy. I want to bring in the guys that I would want to bring in, and that will be the number one thing. I'm not going to talk about anything else, but that would be, we would have to get a certain kind of guys to just deal with the pressure coming down the stretch. You know what I mean? The gym is for where you make your mistakes at. We have to get certain kind of guys to push him past that threshold of getting past, because Caleb is money. Caleb probably the best 4 or 5 round fighter in the fucking world. But once the fatigue starts setting in, you're running out of ideas and the guys keep putting pressure, then that's where we had some trouble. So I would want to be able to get past that. And if we get past that, we could handle Resendiz. But like I said, it's going to be a much harder fight next time, you know, because he was humble. He worried me all week, bro. I'm telling you. He was humble. He was talking about his baby, and he just had a real even demeanor. And I was just like, fuck, man. I kept telling Caleb's like, we got a fucking fight. Don't think this is a party. I kept saying it over and over in camp. You can ask Rich Barrientos and Tony Brady. I'm like, this boy is coming to fight, man. I'm telling y'all, don't fucking take this guy. And I'm not saying Caleb did, but I just got this thing with me where I've been on the other side of this and won some fights as big underdogs. And you know that look. You know that look when the guy is gonna fight. And it makes your stomach hurt. It makes you like queasy because you it's no such thing as, oh God, I got a feeling my guy gonna lose, I'm gonna pull out of a fight. You can't do that. But you know it when the guy is gonna throw down. You could just feel it in your guts. You could feel it in your bones. It's an energy they give off. And I swear to God on my kids, I told Caleb, I told his wife, I kept telling him, bro, this motherfucker gonna fight, bro. Don't believe the hype. This boy gonna fight. And all this stuff about them moving up in weight. Everybody in boxing is cutting 25 or more pounds. So when a guy get the fight at a weight 8 pounds higher, he gonna be fresh, he gonna have more muscles, he gonna have more carbs, his blood gonna feel better. That's not I'm not saying it's not a big deal, but sometimes it works out for them. You know what I mean? Because they don't have to dry out and go. I want y'all to peep something in boxing. Listen to how fighters talk at the weigh-in. At the weigh-in, before they get on the scale, listen to how they talk. Go interview a fighter. 9 out of 10 of them, their vocal cords is drained. They can't even talk right because they've been cutting so much weight. It takes something out of their vocal cords, and they talk with a deep whisper. It's brutal. See how Resendiz was talking? It was cool. All that little shit matters, man. He had an even kill in his personality, man, and I knew we was in for it. I wasn't bragging or talking, none of that, because I know what can happen when a guy has that kind of ambition, and when he has that kind of, you can't measure a man's ambition. The great Nazim Richardson used to tell me that in the gym all the time. Like, you can't measure how bad this other guy wants it. That's a hell of a thing, man. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes fighters, they don't even know subconsciously if they let off the gas. They don't even know it. But Resendiz is not rich. He's not rich. Bro, making money and taking care of your family is a hell of a motivation. I'm standing up here right now, my back is hurt. You know why my back hurt? Because I flew home Wednesday night because my kids ran in the CYO championships Thursday night. We didn't get home till 11 o'clock at night. 4 o'clock in the morning, I had to be up at the airport to be back out here to get this weigh-in. You'll do anything for your kids, anything in the world.
You think it's a little bit?
The boy talking about having a baby.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that kind of shit, you don't.
You can't fake it.
You can't. I'm telling you, you can't fake that. That's a lot of ambition because Caleb was lighting him up early, so he could have just packed it in and just let his head get jabbed off. He kept pushing, and then he got to the point in the fight where he turned it around. You got to tip your hat to him.
Do you think Caleb has a